The restaurant lights hummed low above our table, casting shadows that made everything feel smaller than it was. Daniel leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his jaw tight as if every word he spoke would cost him too much effort. Then he said it, 4 words that cracked through the air sharper than the clink of silverware. "I'm done with you." I didn't react at first. My hand stayed wrapped around the glass of water, cold against my palm. My mind scrambled, searching for context, for some thread to hold on to. This was the man I'd lived with for 3 years, the man who once promised me stability, partnership, a future. "Daniel, what are you talking about?" My voice came out softer than I wanted, shaky enough that I hated myself for it. He didn't look away. His eyes narrowed, steady, as if he'd rehearsed this moment. "I'm finished. I don't owe you more than that." I felt my throat tighten. Around us, the restaurant buzzed with laughter, forks clinking, waiters weaving between tables. To everyone else, we were just another couple having dinner. But to me, it felt like the room had collapsed into a single spotlight where only we existed, and only I was losing. I forced myself to breathe, to straighten my back. "Is this about her?" I asked. The question slipped out before I could stop it. His smirk was all the answer I needed. Heat rushed to my face. I pushed back from the table, the chair legs scraping against the floor. People turned to look. Daniel didn't move. He just watched me, that same flat expression, as if my pain was an inconvenience. I walked out, leaving the untouched meal on the table, the promise of our life together burning to ash behind me. Outside, the night air cut through my chest, sharp and merciless. My hands trembled as I tried to light a cigarette I hadn't touched in months. But beneath the shaking, beneath the humiliation and fear, something stirred. It wasn't hope. Not yet. It was something raw, unnamed, pressing against my ribs like it had been waiting for this moment all along. When I finally reached my apartment, the silence was unbearable. His absence clung to every corner. The jacket he left draped over the couch, the coffee mug with his chipped initials, the bed we'd shared. Every detail screamed at me, "You're alone, and he chose this." But then a thought hit me, cutting sharper than his words at that table. If Daniel was truly done with me, why did he look so certain, so smug, like he had already planned what came next? What exactly had Daniel prepared for after walking away from me, and why did it feel like I was the only one left in the dark? The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages. Not from Daniel, he was silent, as if erasing me overnight was effortless, but from the bank. Transactions I hadn't made, accounts I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped as I scrolled. He hadn't just walked out of my life. He'd taken pieces of it with him. Rent money. Savings. Even the small fund I'd kept aside for emergencies, it was all gone. The humiliation from last night turned into something else. My pulse sharpened, steady. He hadn't just broken up with me. He had planned this. He had prepared. By noon, I was at the bank, my voice trembling as I explained. The clerk gave me sympathetic eyes but only useless answers. "You'll need to file a report. Without proof, there's not much we can do." Walking out of that building, I realized, Daniel thought I was powerless. He thought I'd crumble the way I always had when he raised his voice, when he told me what I couldn't do without him. But the fire inside me grew. It wasn't about getting him back anymore. It was about reclaiming myself. That night, I opened my laptop and dug deeper. Emails, records, the joint bills we used to split. Every detail told a story, and slowly the pattern emerged. He wasn't just leaving me. He was setting up a new life, probably with her. My so-called friend. I clenched my jaw, reading a message from her, hidden in a folder he must have thought I'd never check. The words were clear enough. "She won't stop you. She never does." My chest tightened. Betrayal wasn't just his. It was hers too. For the first time in years, my fear gave way to clarity. If Daniel thought this was the end of me, he was wrong. But as I sat there, fingers still on the keyboard, one question echoed louder than the rest. If Daniel had already stolen everything I had, what else was he planning that I hadn't seen yet? What final move had Daniel set in motion? And would I uncover it before it was too late? The week that followed blurred into a rhythm of anger and calculation. Every morning, I woke up with his voice still echoing in my ears, "I'm done with you," and every night, I sat in front of my laptop, piecing together a map of his lies. I tracked expenses, traced the withdrawals, and followed the trail of his new life. He had rented an apartment in another part of the city, not far from the company he once mocked me for applying to. And every trace led back to her, Elise. My friend. Or rather, the woman who smiled at me while texting him behind my back. I wasn't reckless. I knew storming into their lives would only make me look desperate, pathetic. That wasn't the revenge I wanted. Revenge wasn't a scream. It was a quiet blade. Precise. Timed. So I played my part. I went to work each day at the small cafe I'd picked up shifts in, kept my head down, let everyone think I was shrinking. But behind that facade, I was gathering information. One of my old contacts from university, Ethan, a finance intern, owed me a favor. He pulled records, discreetly. What he found confirmed what I already feared. Daniel hadn't just stolen my savings. He was laundering money through joint accounts under my name. If he was caught, it wouldn't be him facing the first set of charges. It would be me. The realization stung, but it didn't break me. It sharpened me. One evening, I followed him. I stayed far enough back, blending into the evening crowd. I watched as he entered a restaurant, our old spot, the same place where he had ended it with me. Only this time, Elise was waiting at the table. She reached for his hand the way I used to. My nails dug into my palm, but I didn't turn away. I needed to see it. Needed the sight of them together burned into me, so I'd never doubt why I was doing this. From the corner, I snapped photos. Not because I wanted them for myself, but because I knew one day they would matter. If Daniel wanted to build a life on lies, I'd make sure those lies collapsed on him. Still, a sliver of unease cut through me as I walked home that night. Elise's face lingered in my mind. She didn't look happy. She didn't look like someone who had won. Her smile was faint, her eyes darting to the door every few minutes, almost like she was afraid of him. I shook the thought away. She had betrayed me. She didn't deserve my sympathy. And yet, the question refused to leave. If Elise wasn't smiling out of joy, then what exactly was she trapped in, and how deep did Daniel's deception go? Was my revenge against the right person, or was there a darker truth waiting beneath his eyes? The plan had taken weeks, but by the time I stood outside Daniel's apartment building, I felt steady. The documents Ethan had helped me collect were tucked safely in my bag. Bank records, transfers, proof of his fraud. The photos I had taken of him and Elise, hand in hand, were on a USB drive. And the cafe manager who once overheard Daniel bragging about starting over without deadweight had agreed to testify. All the pieces were in place. All I had to do was walk inside. I climbed the narrow staircase, each step heavy but certain. My heart pounded against my ribs, not out of fear, but anticipation. For once, Daniel would see me not as the woman he dismissed, but as the one holding the match above everything he had built. When he opened the door, his expression shifted from surprise to irritation. "What are you doing here?" His voice carried that same sharpness I used to shrink under. "Not anymore." "I'm here," I said evenly, "because you thought you could erase me. But I'm still standing. And you're not going to be." He tried to laugh it off, leaning on the doorframe. "Alina, don't make this pathetic. Move on." I stepped past him, uninvited. "Move on." I placed the folder on the table between us. From theft? From fraud? From betrayal? His smirk faltered as his eyes dropped to the papers. "You didn't think I'd find out, did you?" My voice grew firmer, steadier. "That you drained my accounts? That you left me holding the liability? You thought I'd just curl up and disappear?" Daniel's jaw clenched. His silence told me I had struck the right nerve. I pulled the USB drive from my bag and set it beside the folder. "These are copies. I've already shared the originals. If you think you can threaten me, or Elise, or anyone else again, "You're wrong. This ends now." For the first time, he looked shaken. Not furious, not arrogant, shaken. And then his eyes shifted, not to the papers, but to me. He studied me, really studied me, in a way he hadn't in years. His shoulders slumped, his lips parted, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. The silence between us thickened. My hand hovered above the folder, ready to push it back into my bag and walk out triumphant. But then, I froze. Because in his eyes, I didn't see anger. I didn't see fear. I saw something else. A flicker. A shadow of exhaustion. And beneath it, something close to despair. My chest tightened. This wasn't the man who thought he had one. This wasn't the smirk of someone untouchable. It was the look of someone already broken, long before I arrived. For a moment, my certainty cracked. Had I been fighting the wrong battle? Was Elise's uneasy smile not betrayal, but warning? Daniel finally spoke, his voice low. "You don't understand, Alina." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. My whole body urged me to finish this, to take back everything he had stolen. And yet, staring into those eyes, a question I didn't want to ask clawed its way to the surface. What if my revenge wasn't the end of him, but the beginning of something I wasn't ready to face? I gripped the folder tighter, every muscle tense. The choice was right in front of me: burn it all down, or listen to the words he hadn't said yet. And in that silence, one thought echoed louder than anything else. If I take this final step, will I still recognize the person I've become?